This is the Lambda Cartel. This hangout on air is live. And the intent of this Google Hangout session is to discuss the current state of standing up the Lambda Cartel organization, as well as discuss the latest updates of Project Nikeza. And we might chat after that stuff is over. Hopefully, we can keep it within 1 hour. And that's pretty much it. Pablo,
Yeah.
Odie, and Adam. And we're missing Mitch and Brian, but that's okay. Hopefully they'll show up for the next session whenever that is. And all right, so I'm going to attempt to moderate. Feel free to take over as I butcher this. But what's the current state of like trying to stand up this organization, like the website and any of the other tasks that are required to be successful? To I don't know. I guess we're not a foundation, but where are we at so far?
Let me jump right into that one. So I have the website layout. I'm working on the contents, on specifically the mission statement. I did a video that has the layout and mock-up, like how I did the design. It's up on YouTube. And now I'm working on the actual content. I have a rough mission statement, but haven't really had the time to sit down and really polish it. That's the main website. I do still need to know what's the status on the domain of the on setting up the domain. And then after the main website, like the main landing page is done and the website and the domain is set up, I do plan to add other pages. Maybe one page for each member, or add a page where people can just look at all of our content from YouTube and SoundCloud in one place. I know it sounds like what Project Nikeza would be like.
Oh no, because Nikeza is just nothing but links, so it's not gonna. As of right now, I don't think it's gonna have like embedded YouTube videos or video videos.
But let's not go in there yet. But I mean, I'm making progress on the website. It's mobile first. I think it's looking pretty good. It's a very simple layout. I wasn't really going into making something very complicated, because I wanted to be fast and simple so that people could really know what we're about. And so that's the website. In terms of the organization, Adam did a great job with the initial version of the charter. I'm still in the discovery process of the organization. I have more questions than answers at this moment, and I'm being careful not to ask some of those questions because I don't want to influence people, other members, one way or the other, due to me having personal opinions, right? So in the same way that we had that discovery process with Nikeza, I'm still having that discovery process for the organization. I know some things in terms of what I don't want it to become, but and a general feel of what others don't want it to become from our conversations and reading between the lines on the GitHub issues. But aside from that, I feel it's pretty much still described as an open sourced software project where a bunch of people that want to learn are just kicking it. You know, that's what I feel it is right now. Not That's not what will necessarily be in the future, because that's the beauty of it. We can evolve, but right now that feels okay. I don't know what you guys think. You know.
Is there anything else to discuss on a specific organization before we discuss Nikeza?
Um, I mean, I do have I do have some questions that uh, are not are meant as discovery questions that I want to put out there, and I don't know if they're better fit for GitHub. So what if I just uh, ask the main one, and then you guys tell me if that's better discussing GitHub, because that means that we'll have more time to think it over. So my main question is, Scott is and was the person who came up with the original idea of us coming together, um, and I have the utmost respect for him. Um, does that make him the default leader? And for leader, I mean the person who sets sets the tone and guides us in where the organization where we're going, because um, every organization needs to have someone who makes at least a minimum amount of decisions, right? And I'm not challenging Scott, or I'm not trying to prop myself off or put somebody else, but I want to know what other people are thinking in that regard.
Okay, so are you done, or should I uh, talk? I don't want to interrupt.
Is Odie good to talk, Pablo?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right. So here's, like, if you have a team, no matter how good the team is, even if it's a team of professors, you have to have a leader. You have to have someone that decides the direction, because a lot of the difficult decisions in life are subjective, right? Because they wouldn't be difficult if they were scientific, if it was clear what decision to make. So because of that, you need someone to arbitrate on those subjective decisions. That's why you always need a leader in any group, in any team, and whatsoever. So, to some extent, here's my thinking though, that it's like Scott is going to be the leader, because he was the one who came up with the idea and everything. But I'm not so sure he wants that responsibility. So I think it's best to ask him, But I think by default it should be him though. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Adam?
I would agree with Odie.
So my thought process is, uh, how do I say this? Um, I'm not completely in my comfort zone, knowing what the best path is for this. I'll I assume I would be like anybody else. I would learn as I go, but I think there's a difference between a leader and a dictator. And so, with that said, um, there's some strong views that I do have that um, I think I would pretty much partner with you guys on to figure out if it really makes sense, versus selfish thoughts. But in a way, I was kind of more. My vision was more of how do I say this? Because I wasn't expecting this to come up. Um, one is I was expecting that for various projects, whoever is the brainchild of that particular project that people think is a good idea to work on, then they're the lead on that project or whatever. When it comes to the organization, um, I'm not confident I can make a decision right now because I'm not really sure what it really means to take the lead of an organization like this. So right now I'm kind of copping out, and I'm not going to probably spend that much time on this session trying to figure out what the true responsibilities or expectations are for someone to take the lead. I do have very strong opinions, but I'm not comfortable um, basically making a decision on who's going to take that on, or if it should really be one person versus a subset of people that ultimately can make a decision based on like some type of voting system or something. I don't know. Kind of like a
Okay.
board, right? Board of directors or something. So,
I mean, I feel you 100%. I understand where you're coming from, and and given that we are in this discovery process, I agree with what you're saying, you know. And so, when I say leader or leadership, it might be that we end up just breaking things into parts, and one person does X and that one person does Y, and that's how we move forward, but like Odie said, there needs to be someone that has the last decision making ability, this the last call. And I do trust your judgments. So, it's easier to help somebody develop their leadership than to follow someone who has strong leadership opinions that we may disagree with. So it's easier for me, for Adams, for Odie, for Brian, for Mitch to help you in any way possible than to have somebody who's very hard-headed and doesn't really listen to what we might have to say, So I think that settles it.
okay.
That's cool. That's cool. So I mean, that's all I had to. Yeah, I mean, that answer answers all the other subset of questions. So yeah, awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, I mean, I'll assume it for right now, or else we can have more discussion on it. But I'm okay with it based on the understanding of like encouragement and like actual like advice on direction to take versus me just trying to figure out things blindly. So I mean, I would rely on you guys heavily to help me figure things out. So
Likewise, I wouldn't have any other way. I don't think there's a better way to that. It's that, us working together. That's it.
cool. All right. Is there anything else to talk about based on the organization?
I don't know where this falls under, but I saw an issue. I think it kind of you know what? Let's move on because I think it falls under the project proper. So
Okay.
maybe when we get there, I'll bring it up.
Well, let's talk about the project then.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Sorry.
All right.
I was just curious about the domain. Somebody asked about that earlier, and I think Odie was transferring it to Scott. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he sent me an email, and I have yet to actually dig into it to try to figure out what I need to actually
Mhm.
do to make that happen.
Okay, so it's in progress. That's all we're curious about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So to clarify, I use DN Simple. It's
Mhm.
I use DN Simple as an automated DNS service, and I did the transfer to Scott. So anytime people transfer domains, there's a authorization code that you need to give to the other person. It's like a password key or something like that. So the person will go to his own domain registrar and say, okay, I want a domain transfer. This is the domain. This is the code for the domain. Then the two domain registrars will now work out the details. So we've started that process. So I've sent the authorization code to Scott. So it's just for Scott to go to his own domain registrar with whatever that may be, GoDaddy, whatever, and now complete the process at his end.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Good.
that's all that's left.
I'll try to get that done within the next week or so.
All right. All right.
Actually, maybe it's a good idea to actually go to GitHub and figure out what's on the everything thing.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I saw your request. I'm so sorry, you guys. I've been so busy throughout the week and stuff. On Sunday, where I was supposed to iron everything out, something came up, but I'll still try and see if I can attend to all the issues during the week. At least most of them. So I saw one for the build process, the build pipeline, right? This is one of those moments where Yelu, sorry, is it YLUW or
Pablo?
whatever? Pablo, thank you.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what was happening.
I'm like, I thought he was having a stroke or something. I'm like, call 911 or 999 or something.
Yes, this is one of those moments where Pablo is right about some things. Like my default instinct was to go to Visual Studio Online because that's what I use every day. That's what I'm used to and all that. But it turns out not to be the right fit for several reasons. Number one is it's not the number of users is limited. I think it's limited to like 5 users, and of course we're already more than 5 for starters. Secondly, is that it's not properly integrated into GitHub, so that just felt wrong. So maybe what will happen is it's still good because if you want to deploy to Azure, it has like the neatest, most automated way of doing that deployment. But I think we should just relegate it for deployment for now. Maybe what we should focus on as a build pipeline would be to use maybe Circle CI, which I started configuring but I didn't finish. Circle CI or AppVeyor, right, to do the integration, to do the whole continuous integration, running builds, so that when people send pull requests, we execute the builds and all that. So, but for it's Linux only, which is fine. We can still use it. But for us to orchestrate builds properly, I was thinking we would have to write like a kind of build script. Okay, so so that we don't have to like Scott, if you remember in your post, let's see. Let's see, in the project page proper, right? There is like some instructions on how to build it that you updated, right?
On the README.
So yeah. So what we may need to do is to like bundle that up into a batch script, either a batch script or a shell script, in fact, or we could have both, so that all we just need to do is point the Circle CI at that bash script, and it will essentially do the whole build and all for both client and server. So we may decide, okay, build server first. It will run .NET build. After that, it will now run Elm Live, whatever. Then if there are any tests that we need to run, we can also put that there as part of the bash script. So my goal was to do all these things I said on Sunday. Well, something came up and I couldn't do it anyway. But I said it's important I let everyone know what is going through my mind and what my thought process is. So
Hey, Odie, can we run
Yeah.
fake scripts over there?
yeah,
Okay.
we can.
Okay, cool.
Okay, You know what? I think fake might even be better now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, I'm a Python guy too, so if you want me to help you maybe throw a Python script that, you know, does all of that. I mean, Python is a great language to do all of that, and I know it's
Sure.
supported. So, you know, don't like feel free to reach out to others, and if if you don't have time or your schedule suddenly changes, you know, I I think it's not a bad idea to just put it on the issue. Like, hey, wow, you know, like I was planning to do it this way, but the schedule changed, and this is what I'm thinking. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
if
That,
if you can, you know, like from your phone or whatever,
mm,
because now like I we suddenly, you know, like I don't want to have the feeling that that I'm withholding information from you guys, and suddenly you guys discover that you could have helped me. Um,
mm,
if I had posted on GitHub, and I don't want to like have to make you wait until we have this sort of chats. And I've just realized that I'm withholding information. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start doing that and try it out if you want, because I think that'll help.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was, I haven't really been part of an open source project before, so I'm still like figuring out how to, how to do the organization part of it, not the coding now, because that one, when I contribute to existing open source projects, they already have all of that set up. So I'm just still working out the kinks, yeah.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. I
this is
mean,
my first one too.
oh, and
I'm sure people can
I'm,
tell.
I've been around the block a couple of times, and you know, my approach would be to just abuse the issues. You know, just write it there. And if you don't feel like it's something that you want to put out in the public, then send out an email. And you know, I tend to over communicate if you guys haven't noticed, but it's because I don't want you to feel like in the dark. You know, I don't want you to feel in the dark. I want you to feel that I want you to see my progress so that you get motivated by my progress, and then you make progress and I get pumped, and we all like, yeah, you know, we make that happen. We make the magic happen.
Let's talk
So
about that.
yeah,
There was a comment on one of the GitHub issues where I started arbitrarily assigning issues to people, and I'm not sure if that was the right thing to do. I mean, I wasn't trying to send any mixed messages. I just felt like, well, if people aren't interested in what I think they may be interested in, they'll just unassign themselves or just assign someone else to it. Are there any feelings towards when issues are created? Do we just leave them blank until someone decides to pick it up? What's the thought? How do people feel about that?
No, I think it's okay. Like if you know someone, because someone may not necessarily be able to go through every single issue at a time, because the project is just starting and we have like how many 17 open issues. Imagine if it's down the line when there are 100, 200, 300 open issues, right? It would be better if any of us sees them to say, oh, okay, this guy can help you with this, or this issue, this person is more suited to, do it. And yeah, now assign it. I see that done a lot, especially in like large open source projects, because the people who necessarily know what to do about an issue may not necessarily see that issue, just due to the volume of the whole thing. So assigning issues like that can be done by anyone really. So I don't see any problem with it, Sha. That's my opinion anyway.
Okay. Pablo, Adam, your thoughts? Are you
I
guys
personally
agree?
would agree with Odie. I think that's fine. The only thing is, personally, I've been thinking about other things besides the things that were assigned to me recently. Just like we need a back end for a few things at least, and I was just trying to look into that instead of the front end stuff, which I probably should be doing. So
No, so in that situation, right? Just unassign yourself
okay,
Mm.
and assign what you want to do.
okay,
And if someone else wants to do it, then y'all handle that and manage that.
You know, I'm a compulsive issue closer, meaning that I open issues. I usually assign myself or don't assign them to anyone. I mention somebody and ask a question, and if I don't get a reply within a given amount of time, I close it and I just let it be and leave it, there for the record for the future. Because you can search issues. If I opened an issue 2 months ago that had to do with a feature, and closed it, and now we need to discuss that feature, then I can go back and see, is there any closed issue that had any question or any sort of information. And so in that way, what I do is rather than assign it, because for me assigning feels like I'm there's an expectation, right? But by mentioning, I can say, hey, Odie, what do you think we could do here? I want to hear your input. Do you think you could tackle this? Do I assign it to you? And in that way, I go back to that over communicating, and rather than just click assign, I make it part of the issue, figure out who will tackle it. And if you say, oh, I can't right now, let's close it and come back to this when we hit X milestone. And okay, let's close it up. Who cares? Blah, blah, blah. And then we'll open it later on. And I do understand where Scott is coming from, because GitHub issues are are like code reviews in a way. They have like this emotional baggage when you see your little image right there and your name assigned. And if it's a feature and nobody asks you, you might say, like, did I miss something? Did I say something? Did I did not receive an email? And different people might react differently to that. So I don't know. I do follow that process, and I feel it would be worth trying out, at least for a little while. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
It doesn't matter to me. Like, majority rules, like, leave them blank and just put comments on them and address or address certain members to get what they think, until it finally gets assigned to someone that's comfortable with it. Once we get enough context about that particular issue.
Okay.
I don't care.
And how do you feel about closing issues? Because I am a compulsive closer. If I don't see any discussion for happening for a given amount of time, I close it and say, and I make a comment saying closing this for now, and the reason is that to keep the most important issues open and up front, and then the lesser issues, not so we don't have like a rainbow of tags and like 3 pages of issues,
So I think when that happens, there's a deeper problem that needs to be solved.
Mm-hmm.
So my understanding is everybody is working except for me. So you guys have like other commitments, higher priorities, and I get that. And so more than likely there's going to be issues that are just dangling that are important, but based on the the capacity of people, they just can't get to it when they need to. I'm not sure what the right approach should be, but I'm hesitant to just close something, especially if we created it with intent.
Okay. So
Feel free to disagree with me. It's just my own personal feeling.
no, that's cool. That's cool. I need to know that because closing issues is also something that can create friction. Because like why the heck is Paolo closing all these issues? And it's a personal trait. Like because that's the way I work through that. But I don't want to step in any toes, and I want to respect like everybody's space. So
what about this? Is it possible once a week? Hopefully once a week. I don't think once a week is too much to ask for. We spend like 10, 15 minutes triaging through issues that are pending to figure out if we should close it or not and decide that as a group.
Sure. I mean, that could go through an email, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. And I most of my time is spent on the everything repo, and that's like a brain dump of any questions we might have. So closing and opening them and coming back to them wouldn't really be like a huge deal in comparison to like like Nikeza, which we would have conversations about features and we have technical questions, and so for Nikeza I wouldn't really go at it that hard, right? I would ask first if we would rather just close this one for the time being and then come back to it. I would make that question. So yeah.
All right. Can we move on from this one?
I hope.
You can
Sure.
this podcast audio leveling up issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pay the bill for that. I think it's important to have the podcast.
Yeah, I agree.
So you and I could get together, and you toss me whatever link there is to provide my bank card info, and I'll handle that. It shouldn't be more than like $15 or $20 a month.
I just realized that we could even do it with my web host because I have a very unused web host account that when coupled with WordPress, I could use it to publish a podcast and have an RSS feed. And given that we have, less than 100 total, listens and views, I will manage it. The moment it needs to be scaled up, then we can consider something else. However, we might need to pay for a service to record the podcast with better quality.
I don't really care so much. I think the quality is good enough.
Okay.
Other people,
I just added a link to that issue for a service that allows you all to record on your own machines, and it'll stitch it together yourselves. So it's basically just a link to a website. So for all the guests, and they can just hit a button and it records their mic, and then when you're done, you hit stop and it stitches it together for you. I don't know if that's something you want to look at.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Because that's what the issue was really about, was like people's audio cutting out and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like mine specifically, because the Puerto Rican internet is just like a couple of speaker wires connected to a faucet. and and I know, but yeah, and I've been trying to improve it. I think last couple of episodes have been better, uh, but in terms of hosting, um, I do have that option, and because SoundCloud, it's not really cutting it. But that's something that I'm going to put on a GitHub issue. I just don't want to like slow down the progress here.
So
I'll
what
just
issues have you heard seen or whatever with SoundCloud?
I mean, they just give us very small amount of space,
Oh, okay.
and so I have to delete episodes, or they make them unavailable. They ghost them,
Wow,
and
that
and
is brutal.
yeah, and so far, and they ask, it's they don't ask for a huge amount of money, but it's just if I'm already paying for the web host and I can set it up, then I'm saying like I'd rather just put it up on the web host and just publish it there, and it's paid for, right?
Mhm.
It's one less thing that we have to worry about.
Right.
Um, and so I'm just gonna type it in the issue, and I'll put more information on the GitHub issue so that we can make a better decision together.
Mm.
Because there's some pros and some cons that I don't want to. I'm still not fully aware of. So I'm not completely informed. So when I have all the info, I'll just put it there. And but for the meantime, SoundCloud, given the thousands of listeners that we don't have, it's okay for now.
All right. So, any other thoughts on podcasts before I move on?
No.
No.
All right. So, like, we got like 20 minutes left, which is probably going to end up being another 35 minutes. I'm ready to talk about Nikeza, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I'm about to share my screen. I'll share my screen. Hold up. Entire screen? Yeah. Okay. Present to everybody. Everybody see my screen? And
Yeah.
okay. So able to actually run the current web app. What is this asking for? I don't know what that's about. Has anybody been able to run the web app yet?
Mm-hmm.
I ran it the other day, not today.
Yeah. Same
All right.
here.
So let me just go ahead and just do a walkthrough of what I have so far. There's no styling on it whatsoever. So
It's fine.
please just get past the lack of margins or padding or anything else. So in case for those who haven't been able to run it yet on your home.elm, let me get rid of all this noise. Hold up. All right, I'm using Visual Studio Code, which I'm trying to be nice, but it's not Visual Studio.
But
And
that's good
so for who? I'm trying to be productive.
for me.
It depends on who you ask.
Well, people like Atom, ATOM. I
Yeah.
spent like half a day trying to figure that out, and I tapped out, and I just went with Visual Studio Code. But there's some productivity deficiencies that it has. But anyway, where do I want to go? You do Control P. You can go ahead and type in the name of a file. In this case, I want the home.elm, and this is pretty much the main driver of the application. At the top of the file, I have some commented out, I don't know, command line instructions that could be convenient for you guys. Every time, if you're using Visual Studio Code, every time you want to basically have Elm Live or whatever it's called, yeah, Elm Live kick in, and then you can just copy and paste this. And after you change your directory to the client folder. You can just paste that in. Oh shoot, hold up, go back. You can just paste that in, and that'll do some ceremony, and it'll launch your browser. Okay. And so there's a couple things on here. I still have to figure out how to implement a master page, if I'm saying that right, so that we maintain the header and footer. I have reason to believe that taking advantage of partial application is going to do that for me, in which I'll create a function that basically already has the function for rendering the header and the footer, and the last argument to be provided to that function is going to be the main content. So theoretically, I have an idea of how that's going to work. I hope
Cool.
it does in practice. But so this is currently like, a little prototype of what Nikeza looks like. So far, I understand that some of the ways I implemented things isn't going to go nicely with external systems. So, for example, when this is like filtering or looking for a contributor, right? So if there's no contributors in here, then well, you don't get any results. Currently, the application pulls in all the contributors, and you can just filter on that. I understand that when we're talking to a server, I don't know if it's called pagination, whatever it is, I'll accommodate for that. But the whole point is to just get this thing up and working. And then when we have external dependencies, well, we'll refactor to make that work.
Yep.
So, for example, this contributor one is, contributor space one, right? And that's pretty much it. So that's the filtering for finding a contributor. I had an open issue saying that for this to be complete, there is also going to be filtering on topics. Topics are like tags, right? In Stack Overflow. So like in the real world, this could be like F#, property-based testing, Elm, WPF, whatever, instead of topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. So there's an open issue saying that, as a user, I wanted to search for a topic to view contributors that provide content on those particular topics. I'm not sure if that still makes sense based on, I think, what the original intent of Nikeza is, which is more contributor-centric than it is subject-centric. You kind of understand what I'm trying to articulate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Do you think, based on what we all know about this so far, in which it's meant to be a tool to streamline all the content for a contributor, do you think it makes sense on the homepage to provide search functionality for specific topics that will basically generate a list of contributors to click on?
I don't know. Thinking about it, like one person could have multiple topics, right? But that one is not really a big deal, right? Because at least you have an idea of who you are looking for. But the flip side of it is, if you pick something like maybe C# or Elm, right? It's possible you will get thousands and thousands of contributors. So I think searching by contributor alone makes more sense. But yeah, I don't know. That other functionality may be fine too. But personally, my take on it is that you should only come here to search for like specific contributors, not necessarily a topic. Because okay, maybe somewhere else you could have like a topic where you could see all the contributors for a topic, but imagine if a topic can easily have 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 contributors. So it doesn't really tell you anything if the first page just shows you 10 or 15 of them. Does that make sense?
it makes sense. I opened up an issue earlier today in which I could. The issue is basically saying um, the server side of Nikeza should probably import all the tags that have been already qualified, from Stack Overflow, so that we don't have 10,000 topics on software development or web development. The intent is to constrain the topics so that they don't when you're trying to when you want to dig into a topic, if we were providing functionality for searching for topics, it doesn't have a massive amount of search results. So this is a better way I could say that. But to make a long story short, any topic that is pretty much an umbrella that will never ever end because everybody's going to be associating their content to, like, for example, web development or C#. To me, that's like too broad. You know what I mean? So I want to constrain it to things that are really specific. But I'm done talking about that. If no one else has any other feedback or
I think
comments.
your original thought makes sense for what you're trying to build right now, or what we're trying to build, because the person coming here is either going to be a contributor or someone looking for a contributor, and they're probably looking for a specific person who is a contributor, right? So I think for the initial case, that makes a lot of sense. Any further search stuff will be probably way later, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't fret on the search a lot, because search in these sort of applications tends to evolve. So yeah, so I mean, at this moment, that's perfect. And when the needs change, we'll just maybe add some Elasticsearch and be done with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I get to close out something. All right, sweet.
So feels good.
There's, when you are let me copy paste this. When you operate on a contributor, you could either you could click on the actual profile, and that's going to show all the topics of the contributor, or you could select a specific topic on that contributor thumbnail. So when you select the actual contributor, then you get answers, articles, podcasts, videos, right? And these are your filters over here of all the topics that contributor has posted content on. And these are filters. Yes, it's going to get cleaned up. So you notice if I uncheck topic 3, then, and also topic 2, well, all you see, all that we have left is topic 1, right? Hence, some question title 1 is topic 1. Some question title 2 is title 2, right? So there's filters on here.
Stupid question.
Sure.
Do you have a check mark for everything? Like, can I make it a default for all topics for that contributor?
Sure, if you want to see all the topics for that contributor. I mean, right. So the question is, you already know all the topics that the contributor provides content on by the filters themselves. That's my thought process.
But is there like a check all option?
There is
Because
if you select well, no. Should I have that?
I feel you should, or have all the topics checked, so that
By default, they're all checked.
Yeah, or have one that says everything.
Okay.
So, because I mean, I'm like, the way I consume is just, I want to see everything, and just pick from that. But I guess it's just a very simple change that won't change the UI layer, because it's just defaulting everything to
So I'll do that. So these links will actually point to the actual external web page. So, for example, Uh, if I, for example, like this some question title 1, well, that's going to actually go to some, I don't know. Well, in this case, this is under answers, right? So it'll go to some answer post on Stack Overflow or something. Podcast is going to actually go to the .NET Rocks specific content for whoever did that podcast. Video, it could just be a link like this, or this may be an opportunity to embed a YouTube or video within here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it. There's also
Go ahead.
so,
I was going to ask a question.
yo,
So it looks like topics are tied to each of these links right now. So somebody has to input them. Is that correct?
well, okay.
Basically,
I'm getting
for
excited
reading-
now because I created an issue for a periodic job to run on the server
Right.
that will basically, each contributor has a collection of connections. Let me say
Sure.
that a different way. Each contributor has connections, in which a connection is a platform, hence YouTube,
Sure.
WordPress, etc., and
Mhm.
also their username.
Mhm.
And so the idea is that periodically, maybe once or twice a day, this job will run on the server. It will pick up new content that or translated recently posted content of that contributor, and it may not be able to figure out what topics that content is associated to.
Mhm.
And so then within that issue that I recently posted, it'll send out a notification via email and also on a dashboard, in which they're notified that, hey, we discovered that you have new content. Would you like to associate topics to this content so that it's discoverable by people that are interested in your work?
So do you mean like so we have a little script that has its own algo that puts, finds keywords, and then those keywords, they have their own weight, and then those that have more weight, and those are the topics. And then if we can't really figure out the topic, we just add a general or unspecified topic, and then that automatically fires off an email so that the author can come and curate the content of sorts.
At a high level, yeah. However,
Okay.
I would hold off on doing any type of I will hold off on trying to figure out what topics their content belongs to. I would push that off towards like more of this evolving, if it does evolve, and just put the entire liability on the contributor to basically associate topics to the recently discovered links that Nikeza has found for them. What do you guys think?
I think you're building Google. I think this is going to be a great, not a search engine, but a content engine.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be though, like, because in the case of Google, right, Google has to like crawl through and figure out the context of your page and all those other stuff. But in this one we have like definite integrations, so
Yep.
it's only a matter of like polling, just calling an integration, and you are talking to YouTube directly and saying, YouTube, please, can I get the latest videos for this one person, and take over from there. So it won't be as involving as Google, but yeah.
And
Sure,
it's bringing the contributors back to the website, and I'm not sure how important that is, but I want them to regularly visit the website anytime they regularly post content.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
it's going to sync what it can, but then it's going to say, hey, we need you to tag this link that we discovered of yours that's somewhere
Yeah,
out there. And so, I mean,
it makes sense.
uh,
It makes sense because, and when I say like search engine, I mean, it's just giving people the information they just really want to see. No BS, and just in the format that it's easy to consume. Because um, now I get why you were so against the word. Well, no, not against, but careful not to use the word
post.
timeline.
Oh, timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's yeah. This is very nice.
so, in addition to that, let me go back. Currently, we're discussing before we started talking about the sync service of Nikeza, in which it discovers contributors' content, and then there's a user story potentially for it to invite that contributor back onto the website so that they can tag their content with topics. All this is from on the homepage clicking the actual contributor and not clicking on the specific topic of the contributor. Hence, remember, this is the actual contributor. If you click this, these are topics. So when you click on the contributor, for each of these content types, answers, podcasts, articles, videos, you can also click all. And the reason why there's an all link here is because, well, someone like Mark Seaman or Scott Blashin will have hundreds of links potentially.
Or John Ski. Yeah.
Or John Ski, yeah. And so there, my thought process is to pretty much have a constrained list, more than likely the most recent posts. And if they really want to see all of them, well, they could click all and they'll see everything.
Gotcha.
All answers for articles, all articles, etc. So that's based on the context of the contributor itself. There's also the context of a contributor's specific topic that you could click on. So when you click on, for example, topic 3 of contributor 1 from the homepage, well, this is topic 3, and you see all the videos, all the podcast. Well, you see videos, podcasts, articles, answers that all relate to that specific topic. You click all of any of these content types. Well, you see all the content for that specific content type for, well, yeah, videos.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
Okay.
So I'm seeing the URLs. I see that you're using the hashtag on the URL.
Yep.
How are you doing the navigation? Because
I wrote a blog post on that.
okay, I'm gonna.
Navigation is
I
done.
saw it.
Navigation is done over here. So this is this URL change. There's I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with Elm's model view update pattern, but this URL change is the message that is responsible for navigation. It's also being referenced up here with under the main function. Main is like the main driver, of the entire app. So this URL change is the message that behind the scenes magic happens, and this URL change ultimately is in a text message. This URL change is going to be used right here, all right, in our view function. Okay, if you're still with me, the view function is responsible for rendering. And so what we do is, when I say rendering, in this case, we are actually rendering specific pages within this web application. So in order to do that, we basically say, hey, what's our current URL, right? And so we say that URL is contained within our model that we pass around everywhere within the web application. So it's basically, hey, what's our current URL, which is in the form of a hash. We tokenize this hash. The hash is a URL, right? We tokenize it, which means that we basically split up. We call like array.split, and our delimiter is the forward slash. And so if we go to this tokenized URL, this is where we do pattern matching, right? And so down here, we can go ahead and, well, this is the split that I was talking about with the
Okay.
Gets rid of the
with the
last
forward
path,
slash.
basically.
So, but
Yeah, and this is where we do pattern matching, in which when you look at the URL, it's going to say, contributor forward slash and then some ID, contributor forward slash some ID and then some topic. Exactly what we see up here, right?
but I do have a stupid question. Do
You don't like the hash
the
in the URL.
hashtag? No, it's not that I like it. It's that it's not search friendly.
Okay, so that we can resolve that later on.
Mhm.
They provide an alternative. I
Okay.
just banged my head against the wall for an entire day trying to understand their routing implementation or their routing support. So that's something that we can fix.
Okay,
Um,
can I say something? Yeah, so this is one of
so
this actually has been fixed across like all JavaScript frameworks. So I'm sure Elm has a solution for it. It's called the HTML5. There's a name. It's called HTML5 routing or something like that. So hopefully it should be a switch in Elm. Once you switch it on, it gets rid of the hash. So what happens is that your server, you must design your server in such a way that irrespective of what URL gets called, what sub URL gets called, it should return just that index page. So to make that work, it's a mixture of both the client and the server working together. Okay, but for now that you don't have any server, it should be a switch. It should be as easy as a switch that would just say use HTML5 routing, and that will remove the hash sign. Yeah, great.
Yeah, no, I'm just a SEO freak. So
No, it's very important. In fact, okay, so I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not trying to plug anything, but it's kind of what I do on my day job. But there's this platform, Nigeria, that I'm working on. I'm solely responsible for it end to end. So I'm kind of like the mini CEO of the mini company. But one of the problems I had to tackle was SEO, because it's really important. If you have something that is public facing and you want Google to be able to index it, then you really need to think about SEO. So, like for example, when Google, in fact, once you deploy any app to the web, if you monitor the traffic, you will notice that you will just see like random hits
put
to
that in the
your
everything one. Crap. Supposed to be in the case of.
you
um,
you can remove it while I'm talking. So like once you just deploy any website on the web, right? If you watch the traffic, you will notice that Google starts looking for your robots.txt, right? If your robots, even if your whether or not your robots.txt is not there, you will notice that it keeps like getting to your site, and if it gets to your site and it can't render the JavaScript, then it's going to report a blank page. Okay, so yeah, to me, SEO is another thing that is one rabbit hole that has just kept me up at night for for several days now.
no, I mean, I know how you feel. I know exactly how you feel. Um, but yeah, I have this feeling, I have this question, and so Scott, did you add a license to the repo?
No, I didn't do anything.
Okay, so
You being a lawyer,
here's-
man.
no, dude. Here's the thing, dude. Like holy shit. I mean, I'm breaking my own rules here of content because I had to say it. This thing, I mean, it's it's turning out really amazing. It's turning out really good, and I just wouldn't want for some dummy to fork the wait, is Scott still online?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not
here.
presenting yet.
Okay, I just wouldn't want anybody to fork this code and get like $20 million in funding.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would
but we're
suck.
not. Well, thanks for planning that idea, but we're not there yet. So
No,
I mean,
but like I'm just
let's have a
saying,
discussion offline about that because
yeah,
there's other things I want to.
yeah, because don't put a license in there yet.
Mm.
That's
I
it.
wasn't.
Yeah, because
All right.
even though we talk about open source and all that, we can open source components, but not necessarily open source the code.
I hear
Like
you.
the
Let's talk about that
product.
offline. There's some other things on the show.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just
All right.
beautiful.
So I talked about the topic of basically you can view content based on specific topics of a contributor. Now, so I'm done with that. All right. So far I discussed filtering contributors, or should I say searching for a contributor, and then viewing the content of a contributor by filtering topics of that content, or going to a specific topic and viewing all the links of that contributor. Are we all good so far?
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So next, what you guys probably haven't seen is this whole login thing. All right. So again, log in. You can basically do test. Okay. And you sign in. All this right here is debugging information, but this is supposed to be like a dashboard, right? It can look however we want it to look, but this is the way it looks right now. So I understand that this down here is kind of distracting, so let me try to get rid of that.
No, it's okay. That's cool.
Mm.
No, it's not okay. I have OCD. Hold up. So somewhere in here I have a toString. All right. Yeah, that's it right there. All right. So let me get rid of this right here. Come here. And you should still be green. Yes, sir. Yeah. All right. So this is going to be something like a dashboard. Okay. When a user or a contributor, I'm not sure what term to use it. This whole domain-driven design thingy. When they log in, they can basically manage their connections. A connection is essentially a platform and its username, right? So in my case, I'm Bizmonger. On WordPress, I go to my platform is WordPress, and my username is Bizmonger, right? And so this is like me configuring my connections so that Nikeza can be aware of it. This gets persisted, Pablo, when we were having the discussion of not really having to have a back end. Well, now I think we do. So this stuff gets persisted. Yeah, there's some logic in here such that once a platform has already been established in the connection, it probably shouldn't show up in the list anymore. Hence WordPress. If we do YouTube, and let's say my name is let's say Stack Overflow, because my name I think on Stack Overflow is Scott Nimrod, Scott Dash Nimrod, or maybe it's Nimrod 2000 mil. It's one of those. This is configuring your connections. All right. So hence, periodically, there's a job that runs on the server that will do discovery of new content and then sends off a notification about topics that it needs the contributor to associate to it if it can't do it itself, whatever. And what's up?
Quick question. This okay, anyway, we'll work out the details later, but I could impersonate you, like I could use your username and add it to my profile.
You could. I thought about that, and I decided that I don't care right now. Like I think that's like we need to create a bucket for like Nikeza evolution and have separate issues on there. Maybe I'm not sure what the best strategy is for that. But
I have an
I
idea
considered that,
actually.
but I don't think.
I have an idea actually.
Oh,
Like
okay.
what we could do here is we should use OAuth authentication. So when you click like add with Stack Overflow, right? We would essentially redirect you to Stack Overflow to sign to use your Stack Overflow credentials and then get your username from Stack Overflow directly without you having to type it. Because the moment you type it, you could type someone else's own. You get what I
I agree.
mean?
Yep.
Wait,
Well, hold up. Let me
what question?
be
Okay,
devil's
go ahead.
advocate. You even if you attempt to impersonate somebody, these are nothing but links. They're still going to link you to that person's content that's in their name, regardless. So if anything, providing more opportunity to link to his content or her
Yeah,
content.
so yeah, because I mean, I see it in a way that if I have a Nikeza, if my Nikeza profile has Scott's content, I see it as me curating Scott's content and making it available for other people. Or like, and so my profile becomes a page that other people will go to because I have content from different people.
Okay.
So and like a way, like in this place where you pin things. How do you call that?
Pinterest.
Yeah, Pinterest.
Pinterest.
Yeah, you could sort of curate content, and you really can't steal it because, or get or like, well, maybe you could build that following through by posting other people's content, but you are providing value because you are taking all of this content and putting it there and making like one of those YouTube playlists, for example, or I mean, there's value there. Like I could do a playlist of all of the members of the Lambda Cartel, and people can see like what everybody's doing, and in one profile. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, but I mean, I like both. I like the OAuth. I don't know, maybe.
Adam?
I was going to say, I think there's non-technical ways to handle this too. Just like in our terms and conditions, hey, you don't do this. If you do, and somebody complains, we'll just kick you out, kind of thing. So just manually human intervention of some of these kind of things if we feel they're violating what we're supplying.
Or we could have like a playlist sort of thing. Like my personal page, I need to authenticate so that this certifies that this is all my content. This is me on the page. But I could also have a playlist. I could also own a playlist of 10 authors that has different types of content, and people subscribe to that, and they can also subscribe to my own. Like
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah,
it really is. I'm not sure if I want to include that in the.
Yeah, like P1.
no,
Yeah.
that's too much. That's too much. But that's just.
Can you create a task for that, Pablo?
Sure.
I was thinking to solve that problem, to handle some of this stuff, or to group some of these things, maybe just make a new project to GitHub for like future ideas or something, and just assign those issues over there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, are we good so far?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So, you can also kill a connection, right? Killed. Now, so those are connections. That's what I discussed. Okay. But my understanding is not everything is going to fit into a connection, right? So, for example, a podcast. Well, I know I'm on. What am I on? I'm on Functional Geekery. I'm on .NET Rocks. I'm on Legacy Code Rocks. I'm on Test Talks. Like, these are independent websites that, I mean, there could be an endless number of podcast websites. So in that case, my current thoughts, unless you guys have a better idea, is, well, you just manually put in whatever you want to put in, like Xamarin Forms and F Sharp,
Mhm.
and then I put in, the .NET Rocks link, and then select type. Well, this is podcast, and I just add it. This isn't implemented yet. I gotta wire up the ad,
Mhm.
and so to make a long story short, there's a manual piece of functionality as well for things that don't really fit into the connection paradigm.
Okay. Okay, makes
Thoughts?
sense.
That's cool.
Okay. All right. In what's missing on here is I need to add another field for topics. All
Sure.
right. So,
Okay.
and that is pretty much it.
Hey, Scott.
What's up?
I have one more comment on this connections thing.
Okay.
A lot of that stuff can probably be gotten from RSS, and I'm wondering if we want to allow just a generic RSS also.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm there.
No, I'm not there. Hold up. You talking about connections up here?
Yeah.
RSS?
Yeah, so if somebody has some other feed somewhere else, it's not one of those things. They could just add the RSS feed.
Okay.
Yeah, like
I'm not an RSS user, so I'm kind of like ignorant towards that.
Like what?
Okay.
Like WordPress, for example, right, comes with an RSS feed. So every
Right.
WordPress blog has a URL that shows you all the articles, like summaries, titles of every little thing that is there. So you don't need a explicit WordPress integration or WordPress connection or whatever. You could just use the RSS feed, and you can get notified, or you will know when a new article is uploaded via the RSS feed.
Right.
That makes sense.
Well, I mean, we can let them choose WordPress, and we know the format, and they just plug in their, username or their URL or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, that's a generic. The gist. If they're not on one of those platforms, they can say, give it a name of whatever their platform is, and give us the URL, and we'll just read that.
Yeah, I mean, and it does simplify things because, it's XML.
Yep.
And since it's the standard, RSS is the standard,
Mhm.
you can expect to have a minimum, set of tags.
Yep.
So we can even, from the back end, we can even pull data
Yes.
from different places and then just turn it into an RSS feed that the front end reads, I guess, just like RSS was the first, API that didn't use text, like text files to share information.
Mm-hmm.
How am I writing this? Because I haven't really dealt with RSS feeds. So what?
So let's
as
have a
contributor, I
URL
wanna point.
that is their feed. So that's you're just adding that basically as a connection.
So Scott, do you know what RSS means?
No.
Okay, so it means really simple syndication. So it was invented for people to syndicate their content, so that if you want to syndicate it, well, that means that you got to include a minimum amount of information, so that readers, not people, but the applications can just pull that and expect that information to be in the same format, and it can be presented in a very generic way, or consumed in a generic way by applications. So it's a very simple API, and it's pretty much set in stone, and it's very reliable.
Okay.
It doesn't require authentication, which is good.
So I'm thinking we should have both because,
Yeah.
as technical as I am, if I'm not familiar with using RSS feeds, then I'm sure other people will too.
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Now, what haven't I talked about? Well, here's a question. What else goes on the dashboard for version 1? Or does Is there anything else that needs to be there?
I think this is more than enough.
Now,
Yeah.
I thought about. Okay, let me express intent first.
No, and wait, I think this is more than enough because once it's been styled and it's made pretty, um, it's gonna give us like the minimum, and like that's when it's gonna like we'll see like where we can go. You know,
Okay.
I don't know. I
There-
mean, I'm pretty happy with how it is, honestly.
yeah,
This
y'all
is
see me
actually
checking in like every 4 hours, man.
no. This is actually something I would use right now.
Mm.
There's-
My thought though is that like uh, from the little experience I have, right? You may look at this and say, it's simple. Should we add more? But let's execute this first. You will now realize how much effort goes into it. Remember, I can't
it
remember
was
who's
a lot of effort, even though it doesn't look like much. Like I showed you guys like 3 or 4 different pages. Like
yeah.
this is probably consumed probably about close to 80 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm
So
learning
like
a new language, and I'm not a web developer, so I mean, yeah.
I can imagine. So what I'm saying is, I'm a big believer in like small increments, like right? Because
Yep.
I've been in so many large failed projects, so much so to know that it's best to come up with the MVP, minimum viable product, which this covers it very well. Let's ship that minimum viable product. Then if we want to change direction, it will be easier. It won't be as easy, but at least we'll be more informed changing direction, right? If we want to, or if we want to know what's next, it will be clear to us by the time we've shipped. By the time users start using it, they'll tell you, oh, okay, what about this feature? What about that feature? What if we wanted to add this and that? And then we'll be able to take off from there. So I think what we should just focus on now is just shipping this, right? Putting style into it, configuring the backend, finishing the build system, everything, automated builds and all that. Let's just ship what we have. Then we'll now, from that point, we cannot decide what next.
Yeah, I agree.
Everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think like the other members will have an issue with that because it's pretty much a perfect plan.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, how do we manage this? So, for example, a couple times we pretty much brought up opening up a separate project that basically performs as a bucket for the evolution of Nikeza, past version 1. Is that something that we should do?
I just meant a GitHub project, like the thing that you associate issues with. I don't mean an actual repository or anything like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, it does.
Like I think similar to the everything repository, right?
Yeah.
There's a features actual GitHub project, which is a list of issues to do in progress, all that kind of stuff. That's
like
what I was talking about.
like a Trello board.
Yeah, Trello board-ish type thing. Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's what
I didn't know that.
So,
I didn't know that.
Scott,
Mm.
stupid question. How difficult, in your opinion, would be to make all these components generic and publish each one of them like a separate, like its own separate library, or like or have a library of widgets that it's it's reusable in other places.
This login area right here, this is the user control. So we can go to, if I do Control P and I type in login.elm shows up right here. It is a dumb user control. It has no clue what a contributor is. All it knows is username and password, and that's it. So that's one example. Another example is today I added this add connection user control. So to answer your question, there's this thumbnail right here. this login and the add connection, these are all separate controls.
Okay. Because this is because the potential I'm seeing is to go head to head with this code with React. Like we can say, here's your React code, here's your Elm code, you know, from the functional point of view, right? Not to create any sort of you know, animosity, but just say like, here's your component in React, here's your component in Elm. You know, we feel that the one in Elm is simpler and more testable, and you know, the benefits of going functional.
It's I'm not sure if I would. Okay, I'm not a web developer, so I can't relate to any JavaScript framework. I don't know JavaScript at all. But what I will say is there is some plumbing involved. All right, so like one thing that I still haven't figured out yet is, okay, this home.elm, man, this is like going on a 600 line file. Okay, I'm not proud of that. If you the reason why it's so many lines is because this is supposed to be a single page application in order to support navigation. That's my understanding. I'll try to say that again. In order to support navigation, my understanding is that this web application needs to be of a single page application. And
Not really.
well, we can have that conversation then on another session, because
Sure.
I spent a day trying to trying to figure out how Elm does it, and this is Elm. So I mean,
Yeah, there's ways to get around that, but
Okay.
you know, the fact that there are ways around that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong, and the fact that you have a 600 line file right now, it's not bad, because this would be like 2,000 lines, something else. So you know,
well, the beautiful thing is when I refactor, the compiler tells me what I did wrong, and so things just work usually. Like refactoring is like pretty close to a native app development experience, except I'm not using Visual Studio. So I mean, things are. I'm not lost spinning my wheels when I decide to create a new file and throw an extract code from one file and throw it inside of another and all that stuff. That's been pretty good, pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Let me show you the view function on home. So the view function on home, update. Where's view at? View, where are you at? So this is the view function. The view function takes a model and it basically renders it to HTML. And so we do pattern match, as I said earlier, with this URL. And whatever the URL is, it pretty much returns a specific page. In this case, it returns a home page for the home URL. If it's a contributor /ID, then it returns a contributor page. You know, if it's a contributor with an associated topic, well, it returns a contributor topic page. And so all these pages are down here, home page. You know, and this is the reason why this file is so fat. So the home page implementation, that's HTML specific, the contributor page, all that stuff. The syntax was really funky, and it took me maybe like 2 or 3 days to get my head around it. How to do HTML markup in code functionally, but just it's clicking now.
yeah, it looks like Lisp.
It may not for you guys. It probably looks very like hieroglyphic-ish. But
I get it.
it clicks for me now.
No, I get it. It looks like Lisp. I mean, it's pretty much Lisp.
Yeah. If you sorry to cut you, but if you've used this thing before, what's this? There's this thing in F sharp. So it looks a lot like F sharp. That's
Mhm.
Elm. That's for starters. And secondly, is there is a I can't remember what library in F sharp does this. I think it's this thing. What do they call it? Suave. So Suave has this too for generating like HTML. It has this like DSL-ish kind of thing where
Liquid.
you could yeah,
Liquid, yeah,
liquid.
liquid does
Yes,
that.
dot liquid. Yeah, 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 it does. So this is very familiar to me.
Hmm.
So
And I'm just seeing this code. I guess it could be broken down into more. I guess like to reduce the line count, you could break down the file, you know, and just import things. Uh,
You can. There's just some dependencies on specific
hmm
models that are distributed across different modules, and
hmm
so there's a lot of work to break this down. It
no, no,
is.
no, no. What you could do is go to home.elm first. Let me show you something. Right. So like one way you could do it is rather than trying to break out the dependencies, right? You should, break out the implementations of some of these methods. So, for example, like the update method is supposed to maybe based on a particular URL do some rendering or whatever, right? So you could have a render.elm, okay, that its job is just it just gets called whenever you um it just has a list of functions that are the implementations of each of these uh, um, should I say use cases or something like that. So I don't know, but that's how like functional architecture is done. Like you have like the main functions which like the user interacts with, like for viewing, for clicking, or whatever the case may be. Then those ones call or compose smaller functions that do specific low level things, and those ones call like that other low level functions down the line like that. So what should end up happening is like, for example, I'm trying to look for an example of something that could fall under that category. Like for example, I think you have a function called contributor topic something something. So like that could be in its own Elm file, right? And you just get to just call it directly. That makes sense.
Well, it makes sense. It's the issue that or the implementation details are basically making sure that I don't hit a circular dependency with dealing with a file that depends on a type that's in another file, and that file has depends on the type that's in the first file. That's what I started running into when I first started to try to break this stuff out.
Oh,
And
okay.
for the sake of being productive versus a cosmetic nuisance, I just kept everything in here and just archive maybe a cleanup after we push out the first version to see if we could break it down.
Okay.
Stupid
Okay.
question. Could types just go into their own file?
Uh, so the the answer is yes. Just be prepared to potentially deal with an explosion of imports for each type. Remember, this is functional programming. Elm's very similar to F sharp, and so where a class makes sense to be in its own file, because functional programming languages, as I know them, are how do I say it? Data intensive, for lack of a better term. Like when you declare a type, it takes pretty much no space at all, whether it's a record or a discriminated union. So if we go to core.elm right here, I mean, this is a profile, right? This is essentially like what a class looks like, but this is a record. Um, well, what a class would be. Type ID, type name. If I scroll down to somewhere in here, it should be a link, right? So I don't think it would be. I think it would be a maintenance concern to put each type like this right here into its own file. It'll just
Oh
be
no,
an
no,
explosion.
I don't mean its own file, but all the types in one file.
That's what I attempted
Like,
to do right here with core.
Okay. So that you only import core and then you go. Yeah. No, I think that's okay because it's not like there's thousands of types.
Now
That's manageable.
let me introduce like the main infrastructure of this app. So settings is very important for you server people. I said server people again.
There we go again.
I'm not sure. Has anybody viewed this file?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Okay. So this file is pretty important. This file is going to dictate your runtime. Okay. It's basically a configuration file in which you can have your app run in isolation. Hence, the demo that I did for you guys, it's obviously not touching any web server, right? It's actually relying on this test API right here. And this test API is responsible for feeding unit tests as well as the application if the application is in isolation mode.
Okay.
Are we kind of clear on that?
Yep.
Okay. So the reason why people that are doing work on the server would be interested in this is because we have a type called dependencies. This dependencies is basically going to be a set of functions that the server will need to basically account for. I'm not saying that there needs to be a one-to-one mapping on the server for this, but this is pretty much representing the client requests that a server needs to handle, even if it consolidates some of these functions into one. So to make long story short, try login, contributor. A lot of this, like contributors, is really like get contributors. Contributor is get contributor. Links is get links. So that's pretty much what it looks like. So when people are working on the server side and you're scratching your head like, okay, so what does the Nikeza client actually need from us? Your first point of reference should be the settings file right here and this dependencies type. So what this dependencies type is it's pretty much interfaces.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right term is.
No, it's correct. It's an interface really because it dictates like the core set of functionality that the client needs from the server. So the server needs to any server that implements these functions, the Nikeza client can talk to it. So yes, it's an interface.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to dictate how you guys implement the API for the server, but I am saying that you should reference this if you want to figure out what the client needs from the outside world. And
Okay.
so these are the dependencies. These dependencies are actually leveraged in this value called runtime. This runtime is what you're going to see in all of the pages within all the page files of Elm. So, for example, if I go back to home and I'll do find on runtime, you're going to see this everywhere. Whenever we need to retrieve a value from the outside world, we call runtime dot and then whatever function that we need that the server needs to provide to us. Are you guys somewhat clear on what runtime means now?
Yeah.
So,
It's very
basically,
it's very similar to Angular.
runtime is okay. Yeah. So runtime is I don't know anything about Angular. I don't know anything about web, but runtime basically is it. Runtime basically points to.
Still
Why do I
global.
keep on losing my file? Hold up. Runtime is basically pointing to if it's an integration or isolation. If it's in integration mode, then your runtime value is referencing the test API, and the test API is going to act as the server, okay, for isolation mode. Okay, the test API, which is this right here, this is the server that's local. It's not a web service. It's literally like just a module, right?
Mm-hmm.
That basically is going to feed the Nikeza any data that it needs for it to run locally. So why is the tabs not coming up? Okay, so that is runtime within isolation mode. For integration, when we set it to that, so that's where it's actually going to rely on web services. That's where it's actually going to hit the server. So whenever you guys want to test whatever functionality that you implemented on the server, well, when you run Nikeza, you just change the configuration of this right here, and then it's going to be pointing to the server. Your server is this file right here called services.server. Well, the file is called server. The module is called services.server. And this basically provides an implementation for the function interface, or the function interfaces that we defined up here. Try login, contributors, contributor, links, all that stuff needs to be implemented so far, unless you guys have a better idea, on the server file, just like it's implemented on test API.
Cool.
And that's pretty much it. Are we good so far? Is there anything that doesn't make sense or that I did that could be done a better way?
No, I mean,
I
once we
think
get
it's
more,
okay.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, like for this being the first thing you build in Elm, I think it's really great. It's pretty badass. So, you know, sure, it could be improved like all code, but it's really good in my head.
Cool. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I appreciate the props, and well, now we finally have a better understanding of at least what my vision was for Nikeza. And it's pretty much, as I said in the podcast, I'm not sure if Adam and Odie had a chance to listen to the last podcast that we did a couple days ago. Nikeza kind of reminds me of a Priceline or a Kayak, kind of mixed with Craigslist. It's it's more of a facade that will link to other websites, but it's like the main interface or the main gateway to expose the information that you're looking for a given contributor. I wish I could say that in a better way, but it reminds me a lot of like Priceline.com, where Priceline will actually be the gateway to American Airlines, Delta Airlines, U.S. Airlines, or United Airlines, whatever it's called, etc. And I kind of think this is following the same type of pattern of those type of websites, I think. So
Yeah, I'm there. I'm clear with it.
all right, well, that's it.
I'm still building my version. Just kidding.
We offline we can have a discussion about license and
Yeah, sure. No worries.
all that. So yeah, this is going on for about 2 hours. My apologies, but
No
I think it was really good, and I think outside viewers can see that we are serious about building solutions using functional technologies, and that this is real. and everything that we're building is already testable as we attempt to build a prototype, aka minimum viable product, so that hopefully, theoretically, we can maintain velocity, or we can maintain the speed of delivering features. Whereas within object-oriented programming, it's more of a challenge because you have to actually build. You have to concentrate on building a testable solution, where this is already testable by default. So, yeah. Any last words before I terminate this?
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
awesome.
awesome work.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Appreciate
Pumped.
it. Good. We all know where we're getting into now, and hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel.
I have a flashlight, so don't worry about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and this is just one project, and I'm sure you guys may have other projects that you guys might spearhead. So, yeah, that's it. So, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. And
That's cool. Just adios, I guess.
Yeah,
Adam,
me,
Rudy, Pablo, it's been real. We're missing Mitchell. We're missing Brian, and hopefully we can catch them on the next hangout.
yeah, definitely.
So
All right.
hit up the Lambda Cartel YouTube channel. Hit up the Lambda Cartel podcast. Hit up is the Lambda Cartel website in construction? Is there anything there for people to view, or is it still under construction?
There's something there. It's not too pretty, but there's something there. But it doesn't have the domain, so it's the lambda-cartel.github.io/website. So it's not like a pretty URL,
Okay.
but it's there. Yeah. Or just send us an email with all the hate and love that you may have.
All right.
lambdacartel@gmail.com.
Oh God. Okay, whatever. I'll talk about that offline. All right, so I'm hitting the stop broadcast button in 9, 8, 7, 6. If no one has anything else to say, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Peace.